trying to get my light. I guess it'll work. Hi guys, it's Alan again. And about the TI thing, and there's something in Scandinavian culture, and it's whether Norwegian or Denmark, Sweden, and it's called Jaunteloven. It's I don't know much Norwegian, but it's very prevalent in Scandinavian countries. And it's from a book by Axel Sonderheim or Saunderson, something like that. But he's a Danish-Norwegian writer from 80 years ago. And it's something called like The Fugitive Crossed His Tracks, or Never Crossed His Tracks, or something like that, by Axel Solderheim or Sonderheim or Solderson. But in Danish, it's Axel, A-K-S-E-L or A-X-E-L. It's also Nielsen, Nielsen. Same last name as me. I have two of them, Brewer and Nielsen. But no relation to my knowledge. If it's true, because there was electronic harassment too, so you don't know if people write false beliefs or false things up there too, just to make it sound more interesting. And these Scandinavian countries are known as some of the happiest places on earth. They are very community-minded, which is great. That's a very good blessing. But sometimes the self, how people view and treat the self, it is placed down, and it becomes so unselfish towards looking out for other people that the self takes a beating. And it reminds me, I know from having this side pain, and for 30 years not knowing, wanting to stay alive to find out what was causing it, what was on my side, why was it always, and is it psychosomatic? Did it something I'd studied religion so much? And incidentally, looking at one of the stories on the internet, Axel, the author, Sonderheim, who made up this fictitious Jaunteloven. It's a satirical book he wrote, and he invented it. He invented this thing called, to describe how Norwegians are not inbred, but are brainwashed, if that's the right word. But they're raised in culture and in classrooms to so much think about the other person and the community that they lose sight of themselves, their emotions, their needs, and they hate people who brag. They hate people who look at me, always seeking attention. It becomes, and I understand. I was raised, even though I'm in the United States, I always have been. But there's something, I don't know if it's that culture, but just I've been raised to think that way too. That anybody who's always that way, that, you look down upon, like they're always me, the world. Well, and it's almost, even when you're in Jaunteloven, it's like everything, it's self-centered, but it's self-centered in an anti-self way. Like, am I doing what I'm supposed to, am I looking out for others? So it's either pride or guilt. Pride for in your own heart and mind, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But you don't brag about it, or guilt. Like, I didn't do enough, or guilt of, sin of omission. I didn't volunteer, it's like this flagellating, not farting, but like emotionally flagellating yourself like some religious monk in the, in the Dark Ages. And, but this type of zapping, like Havana Syndrome, it literally is like a directed energy weapon, or just an ELF, like Elon Musk has. He has a RFID that can help handicapped people to communicate, and that's a wonderful thing. But sometimes the military will ask, in order to get patent money for a military use, and they want to see if they can do it, get away with it, just to see if they can, to see if they can give people or hospitals or doctors or whoever money, to see if they can get people to go along with something just grossly evil by anybody's standard. And they can live the rest of their life after doing this to one person or 5 or 10 people, but they'll know about it. It's weird to go 30 years always wondering about this pain and nobody telling me until I fell out of the window and had to learn to walk again. And then, even then, when people saw me and with, having to learn to walk and literally learn to walk, because I'd broken my leg and my arms when I fell like this, on landed like that. And you'd think somebody would have. It's amazing. They want shame and guilt for the smallest of things of, somebody being mistreated over something or, but to go along and to get a whole group of people to go along with something like that, to somebody who never has done anything wrong, hurt anybody, ever. And yet to have not just one person, but to get their buddies and other groups of people to get that type of grant money. And it's weird. Then they've got different groups out there. I don't know. I'm just thankful they exist. ICATOR, ICCAT. I'm thinking PATS, Targeted Justice. They're in Houston. Houston, we better watch out for Houston, though. That's where they have also the police have their every year, where they have their non-lethal, symposiums where they can swap stories about new technologies. So I hope they don't take it out on TJ, but they'll probably infiltrate or try to infiltrate in TJ. Anyway, who knows? I'm just glad they exist because it's nice to be able to finally have somebody to tell you, yeah, this is what's been going on in your body while you're going through this, and still have nobody tell you about it. And to find out that it's a weird program. And even though the White House had 2011 and 2012 at the White House bioethics, in Europe, they had the 2014, the first conference in Europe about this type of non-lethal directed energy weapon, Havana Syndrome. That's, it wasn't called Havana Syndrome. But then the Myron May stories and cops using this and the FBI using this on regular people to do a crime. And then they do a crime, shootings or something violent, and either that person gets locked up. That's when police and doctors come in, oh, this person has a psychological problem. So they get paid money. And then the police go along with it. Like say there's a shooting like Myron May, or the manifesto lady from Tennessee, where they won't release her manifesto, where the police, they get grant money for going along and keeping it quiet. It's an FBI local police fusion, and that's what they call it, a fusion center, where federal police and local police can swap stories and try out new technologies, military technology, on unsuspecting civilians. And they'll implant it or do it through, who knows how. And that's what it's called. If you look, it's actually called implantables. So in the movies in the 80s, when the wide-eyed, crazy-looking guy or lady, they implanted something in my tooth. Well, they really do have that. My book by, I forgot his name, but MK Ultra Technology. I don't have it right here, but I did other videos where I show the book, so you can look that up, books on it. Anyway, I'd rather focus on something called that Jante, Law of Jante by Axel, again, Sanderman or Sanderson, but in Danish it's Nielsen. And he thought it's when you're looking out it's not an ideal where such nice people that are trying to look out for, like they'll park their car away from the store because they don't, they think, well, people will be coming and they'll probably need it more than me. And so it's literally a constant way of, it's ingrained to think that way. It is always looking out for the benefit of other people, which sounds wonderful. And it is in many ways. But it's almost like their own personal, and I can understand that your own emotions and not only your preservation, self-preservation, but your emotional positivity. You're good, but it's like they take a lot of the warmthness of your emotions. And that's a big part of these Zaps, this technology. It shoots you in the left side of the muscle. When I say the heart, I mean the heart muscle, the part where the left ventricle cord, however they pronounce it, it becomes, because of a constant current of electricity, ELF weapons, extremely low frequency or low current. And you talk about frequencies and hertz and HERTZ, or spelling, I guess, but it's to create such a low frequency, but it's so low that it's you just know something's a little different and it hurts, but you don't know what it is because no doctor has said, hey, we put something in your body when you're sleeping under anesthesia. And that's what they call the active deniability system, ADS. It's kind of like other types of directed energy weapons that are active denial. They can deny it. Oh, really? Well, we don't see it. You're just getting shocked and zapped, but it's wireless technology. Kind of like wireless internet. I don't see the internet. All I know is I turn it on. It's on my computer, but it goes through the air. It's wireless. It's like, and there's electricity, but it's wireless. So it's like, all I know is it goes on, and they can, like a battery, it's wireless, and then they can just, push a button or push different buttons and then go like this, zap, like that. And yes, they are fucking with people that way, just to see if they can. You can be a totally kind, good person, and then they'll see if they can mess around with the brain initiative, your brain, your nervous system. Havana Syndrome is literally your noggin. Like Elon Musk is talking about helping people. Well, the military takes that technology and how can we weaponize it? How can we hurt nice people? To get a zap and then, of course, objectively, the person down the street just sees you go, ugh, and then you're angry or spitting out. But then a lot of the anger that you'd feel, you're not in a lot of ability because they block a lot of your the ability to feel a lot of your emotions because there's an electrical force right there. And so they will make that mimic schizophrenia. They'll make it mimic it because they're blocking the feeling actually with an electrical frequency or a pulse, a constant ELF frequency, like a low frequency charge. And they'll block it and keep blocking it. And you're wondering, why can't I feel? Why, if I meditate even for years, and then I'll try to get a little bit closer, but the feeling part of that emotion of the heart, part of your body, like a little radius right here. And that's how it's the best way to explain it. And then you go 30 years, like in my case, not knowing what it is, nobody telling you, but you're thankful for pain meds. And you think, well, 30 years, nobody's telling me. And it's like, no, kick the butt. It's like, no. And then you find out afterwards and have to learn to walk again. Oh, it wasn't just a psychosomatic or a painful, from my first surgery of breaking my, when I broke my arm during football in high school, like a screw up. They really did me in and tried to use me as a guinea pig. And this is what I found out during Havana Syndrome. That it's the exact same technology, the exact same, and I'm making these videos because if they do this to other people, which I'm sure they are, when you're going through it, you're thinking, well, I know it's happening to me, and how many is this happening to other people? The only problem, it was big in 2019. There was marches and rallies for targeted individuals. Even last year, there was a group in Brussels, Belgium, Ikator. They had one in like 2021 or 2020, something like that. They had groups and meetings, and then targeted justice and Sacramento, freedom for targeted individuals. They had rallies in Sacramento, in Chicago. There's like 10, 12 people there. In Washington, D.C., again, with Ella Free and Dr. Matt Arnegard or Dr. Matthew Aaron from, I think he works at the NIH, but I'm just thankful that they put it out there, because when you go 30 years not knowing, then they finally, somebody let you know. And then it's like, so finally to have an answer, and you're glad that you don't want other people to go through it, but you're glad you can finally understand what it is that was done to you and is still being done to you. But then you realize, oh, they were saying that, hundreds of thousands of people, and we're worried about the pandemic. We're worried that the vaccine might be how they're introducing this to other people. But when you're part of this every day and you go to these chats and roll calls, you notice that these numbers really aren't, so either they haven't pushed the buttons or started doing whatever at the fusion centers or the NIH, or the numbers are a lot down more, because there's never been like thousands of people in these calls. You might get, sometimes 80, but sometimes it's more like 20 or 30, which we're just thankful that there's somebody we can relate to. But then it's like January 6th, the people storming the Capitol. You wonder how many of those are feds too, because we're used to that. We're used to our old chat groups where feds or, people were interrupting the chats and pretending to be TIs, target individuals, or Havanas, but then they start destroying and talking shit about somebody, and they're just there for mayhem, to disrupt, and calling people names. And sometimes they're just both feds trying to screw up everything for everybody else. And it's like when the feds did that to Gretchen Whitmer, they had 9 or 10 people, and they got, 3 or 4 people arrested, but they had 6 or 7 feds in there to try to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. And they did this just to get 3 people to say, hey, see, we're important. We got these people all worked up to kidnap her. But the people that did all the working up to kidnap her were the feds, trying to get people who normally wouldn't do this stuff, try to get them to go along with something so that they can jump in right when they're about to kidnap. The friends suddenly say, we're FBI, we're going to arrest you. And say, see, you need us. We stop crime. And the truth is, they're the ones causing the crime. CIA, FBI, to experiment its technology on people and just see if they can do it to people and get the cops to go along with it. And to hopefully they can pay off journalists to not cover that story. And it's like, hey, if we need people to cover, we can, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And a lot of these people in journalism are in it too for that. You don't see a lot of whistleblowers like there used to be. There are some whistleblowers, but then, it's like how many people are in the NSA, but how many do you know that are whistleblowers? 2 or 3 names. How many FBI people that you know that have been on the news that are whistleblowers, but they don't cover it too much? The ones that are. The ones that do, that do get covered, we're thankful for. Anyway, I was trying to talk about Jaunteloven. I encourage you to look up Jaunteloven. It's this teaching about it's comical, Don't think you're smarter than anybody. Don't think you can teach anybody anything. Don't think anybody likes you. Don't think you're smarter than anybody. Don't you laugh at us. And then at the end, it's like number 11 rule. We know something about you, like blackmail or something. And it's a joke. But because it's brain mapping and mind reading, as weird as that sounds, what if you really don't have much to blackmail? And that sounds arrogant. It does. It just does sound arrogant. But really, what if you've been nice to people and you think they've been nice to you? Shouldn't they stop doing this TI thing? What if you've, to your knowledge, never stolen from anybody or never, and I didn't need to, to be blackmailed, or I didn't need to be zapped and tortured, and yet they still do it, Anyway, I encourage you to look up Jaunteloven because it's fascinating, and you might see some of its influence, and it's in not just Nordic countries, but you see how its influence on individual psychology. You compare the non-bragging type and with people that brag a lot and how it makes you feel. And it's like, how do you think you should brag? If you do something, should you be that positive towards yourself? And, and or does it make you curl up in revulsion to hear that people brag and all that? And how does that feelings, but the weird thing is, with the TI community, is when it has that Zaps, they literally block those positive feelings where you could feel and enjoy. And so it's almost like an electronic form of Jaunteloven. They neutralize, and it makes you a nice, complacent, dutiful citizen. And it dumbs you down, and it takes the emotional energy, your normal emotions, and zaps it away, the majority of it. And if you complain about it, then they'll use the old psychological, if you're losing some of your emotions, then that's not, well, maybe it's schizophrenia. And then if they bring up if some of those people have V2K or something, and the doctor claims they've never heard of any of this stuff, or our government wouldn't do it, then well, hopefully this stuff gets out so people know. There are enough books out there that people will know about it. And just compare it with Havana Syndrome. We have the patents to it. So anyway, realize you should know after COVID and all the lies that went back and forth and what they did knowingly to the regular people of our country and the world, how deceptive and cruel and evil, even the people how people just go along with it. And anyway, it's good to know that there are some people that are good, that they don't have to be perfect, but they literally have to be, a good heart and try and sincere. And now when you get zapped with this stuff, it takes a lot of your energy, but it's still good to, to write some letters sometimes and just to keep involved in it. So I appreciate the ones that really do go at it. So anyway, look up Jaunteloven, J-A-U or Janteloven, or it could be Jaunteloven, Jaunteloven, or the law of Jante. So it's interesting. I'll talk to you later. I'm going to make dinner.